Rachel Simmons, the renowned black billionaire in the real estate industry, stepped out of her luxury car right in front of the Plaza Center shopping mall. With her elegant figure dressed in a meticulously tailored black suit and exuding confidence, Rachel was not just a successful businesswoman but also a symbol of extraordinary perseverance. From her humble beginnings, she had built a billion-dollar real estate empire, a remarkable achievement that few have attained. Today, Rachel visited the Plaza Center to unwind and treat herself to a well-deserved shopping day after years of relentless work. Following Rachel was Anna Johnson, her loyal assistant, a companion who had stood by her side through her toughest times. Anna had arranged for VIP services in advance, ensuring that Rachel would be welcomed with all the lavish amenities the center had to offer. Despite all the careful preparations, from the moment they stepped through the large glass door, Rachel sensed a cold, uneasy atmosphere enveloping them. Inside the shopping mall, dazzling crystal chandeliers illuminated the vast space. The staff in neatly pressed uniforms stood behind the reception desk, but the formal atmosphere felt heavy as their eyes fixed intently on Rachel. A few customers paused to stare, whispering to one another. One young receptionist, wearing a forced smile, quickly greeted them but could not conceal her look of surprise and scrutiny upon seeing Rachel. Rachel approached the reception desk, offering a gentle smile. "Hello, I am Rachel Simmons, and I have a VIP reservation. We would like to use the private dressing room and personal assistant services today." The receptionist looked her over, her cold eyes scanning from head to toe, her expression swiftly transforming into something resembling a half-smile tinged with disdain. She replied in a rigid, unenthusiastic tone. "Oh, I'm sorry, but our VIP dressing room is currently unavailable. You can use the communal dressing room if you wish." Rachel held the receptionist's gaze, maintaining her composure but unable to hide her disappointment. Before she could respond, Anna, exhibiting her usual professionalism, reminded her. "We had confirmed the VIP service in advance. Could you please double-check for us?" The receptionist rolled her eyes slightly and reluctantly turned back to her computer screen. After a moment of searching, she frowned, her tone still indifferent. "I don't see any reservations under the name Simmons on the VIP list for today. Perhaps there has been a mistake somewhere." Immediately, Rachel felt a wave of discomfort wash over her. She had encountered these situations countless times, the scrutinizing looks, the roundabout refusals, and the sudden fully booked services. These were subtle expressions of discrimination she had grown accustomed to since her youth. But with her current status and achievements, she was no longer the timid young girl faced with injustice. Striving to remain calm, Rachel politely asked, "Could you please call the manager to verify this information for us? I believe there was an official confirmation from your center." The receptionist slightly pouted and pressed the button for the intercom. After a short while, the manager appeared, a middle-aged man with silver hair and an air of superiority. He approached with a polite smile, yet his eyes displayed a hint of hesitation upon seeing Rachel. "Good afternoon. I am Richard Jones, the manager of Plaza Center," he said, his tone courteous yet cold. "Is there an issue we can assist you with?" Rachel patiently explained. "I am Rachel Simmons. We had a VIP reservation made in advance and expected to have an experience worthy of the promised service." The manager scrutinized her for a moment, his gaze revealing slight annoyance. "Oh, unfortunately, we currently do not have any VIP dressing rooms available, and this service may not align with your needs." Anna's face flushed with anger, ready to speak up, but Rachel gently placed her hand on her shoulder to calm her down. She didn't need to hear any more excuses because she knew full well that this was not about being fully booked but rather a rejection stemming from prejudice against her skin color. Rachel looked straight into the manager's eyes, flashing a cold smile. "Thank you for being clear. I won't bother you any further, then." She turned and walked away, head held high, maintaining her poise and confidence. Rachel's emotions surged as she exited the Plaza Center, a place where she had hoped to experience the luxury service designated for VIP customers. The sunlight outside illuminated what she had just endured, yet it could not erase the feelings of shame and anger within her. Anna exclaimed, "Rachel, this is unacceptable. We have to do something, call the press, contact a lawyer." Rachel paused, taking a deep breath to calm herself. She didn't want to get swept up in a wave of anger and impulsive reactions. With a gentle but firm voice, Rachel replied, "Anna, I have fought my entire life to achieve this position. Do you think this is the first time I've been denied because of my skin color?" Rachel's question made Anna stop and think. Anna's sorrowful gaze reflected deep empathy. She understood that Rachel had faced discrimination and prejudice not just once but many times throughout her journey. Rachel had built her career from scratch while navigating the invisible barriers society erected against people of color. But what surprised Anna was Rachel's unwavering smile. It was not a smile of surrender. It was a smile filled with resolve and strong determination. "If these people can't welcome me as a VIP customer," Rachel said, her eyes igniting with the fire of determination, "then they will have to welcome me in another way. I have plans for the Plaza Center, but not in the way they expect." Rachel's response took Anna aback. She immediately understood that Rachel had something grander in mind, and this seemingly simple shopping trip was about to become a significant turning point. It was not an act of rebellion but a challenge and reform that Rachel had been nurturing within. In that moment, Rachel envisioned the future she wanted to build, a future where not only she but all people like her would be welcomed and recognized. "Rachel, what do you intend to do?" Anna asked, her heart filled with concern but also excitement at seeing her friend's determination. Rachel smiled, and a new light sparkled in her eyes. "I'm going to buy the Plaza Center," she declared. "And I will turn it into a symbol of inclusivity and equality. Here, no one will be discriminated against because of their skin color or any other reason." As these words poured from Rachel's mouth, Anna felt as if she had just witnessed a new sun rising. The boldness of Rachel's plan was not just personal revenge, it was a powerful desire to change an entire culture. Rachel did not only want to prove that she deserved to be treated like a VIP customer. She also wanted to ensure that no one else would ever experience the humiliation she had just endured. Rachel had witnessed injustices throughout her life. Each time she was denied or saw discrimination, she felt a deeper motivation to fight. Those memories made her more resolute in advocating for her rights and those of others. No longer just a regular customer, Rachel decided to become a leader, a trailblazer paving the way for change. Her journey would not be easy, but now she was ready to face the next challenges. Rachel felt her power, and within her surged a strong belief that change was not only possible but also inevitable if people came together. Anna looked into Rachel's eyes and realized that her friend possessed not only a strong will but also a clear vision. She knew Rachel would not rest until the Plaza Center became the symbol she dreamed of. They had embarked on a journey not just to fight for their rights but also for all others yearning for justice in society. That night, returning to her upscale apartment, Rachel turned on the lights and sat down at her desk, opening her computer to research everything she could about the Plaza Center. She began to delve into the financial details of the shopping center, looking for weaknesses she could exploit. Within just a few hours, she discovered that the Plaza Center, although constructed and operated as a lavish venue for the elite, was experiencing financial difficulties. Public reports indicated declining revenue each quarter and increasing debt. The center had even cut back on some services to stay afloat and avoid a complete shutdown. Rachel chuckled softly, feeling exhilarated. Just as she suspected, the Plaza Center was not an impenetrable fortress. It was simply a shaky building waiting for a savvy investor to take over and revive it. With her strong financial backing and extensive experience in real estate, Rachel knew she could make this a reality. But she didn't want to stop at just buying and restructuring the shopping center. She wanted to transform the Plaza Center into a symbol, a place that welcomed everyone regardless of status or skin color. As she dug deeper into the ownership structure of the Plaza Center, Rachel discovered that it was owned by a group of conservative investors. They had owned and operated the Plaza Center for decades, upholding the principle of luxury by eliminating any elements they deemed inappropriate for the center's elite image. They had openly opposed reform ideas and had even rejected business proposals simply because they thought such changes could impact the upscale nature of the Plaza Center. This discovery didn't discourage Rachel. Instead, it ignited her determination further. She knew that approaching this group of investors wouldn't be easy, as they were not only conservative but also very cautious regarding any deals related to the Plaza Center. But Rachel had no intention of giving up. She had faced even greater obstacles to reach her current position. The next morning, Rachel called Anna to her office and shared her plan. Anna, already aware of Rachel's determination, was nonetheless taken aback when she heard the scale of the plan. "You want to buy the Plaza Center?" Anna asked, her eyes wide with surprise. "This will be a long-term and challenging endeavor." Rachel nodded, her eyes sparkling. "Not just to buy it, Anna," she replied. "I want to turn it into a symbol of inclusivity and true class. I want everyone who steps into the Plaza Center to feel welcomed, not judged or excluded simply because they don't fit some standard." Together with Anna, Rachel began to outline a detailed plan to approach the Plaza Center's investors. She decided not to confront them directly at first but to use her business connections to gradually engage through trusted intermediaries. The first step would be to reach out to smaller shareholders, those who might be weary of the Plaza Center's precarious financial situation and willing to sell their shares at a reasonable price. After securing a portion of power within the center, she would then negotiate directly with the larger investors. In the following days, Rachel and her team meticulously studied the business situation of the Plaza Center. They discovered that the center had been facing fierce competition from other emerging shopping malls in the city, and most young customers were no longer excited about a conservative and exclusive venue like the Plaza Center. This realization further boosted Rachel's confidence in her plan. She knew that once she owned the Plaza Center, she could introduce creative ideas to attract a more diverse and open-minded clientele. As night fell, with the city lights sparkling through the office window, Rachel sat in contemplation, reflecting on this ambitious plan. The Plaza Center was not just a luxurious building, it was also a symbol of long-standing prejudices. She understood that owning and changing this place was not merely a business transaction but also a personal statement. With fresh ideas and powerful resources, she would transform the Plaza Center from a place of bias into a truly luxurious and fair space for everyone. Rachel's emotions swirled with a mix of hope and anxiety. She understood that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be voices of dissent and skeptical glances from those accustomed to living in discrimination. But the more she thought, the more she felt the strength from her experiences. Each rejection and each discriminatory look she faced became a driving force urging her to take action. In a moment of resolute determination, Rachel murmured, "If they don't want me to enter Plaza Center as a customer, then they will have to accept me as its owner. And when that happens, they will see that luxury does not lie in excluding someone, but in treating everyone fairly and openly." Rachel recalled painful memories of shopping trips with her mother, only to realize that they were treated differently from other customers. That memory served as a stark reminder in her mind, reminding her of why this mattered. She wanted to create a Plaza Center where anyone, regardless of skin color or background, could feel welcomed. She began to envision grand opening parties where people from all walks of life would come together to share joy, spacious, bright public areas designed to encourage interaction and connection. She could almost hear the lively sounds of laughter, stories being shared, and new relationships being formed. All of that would stand as proof that the Plaza Center was no longer just a building but a part of the community where people felt they belonged. With a renewed sense of energy, Rachel was determined that she would not only transform the Plaza Center but also change how people perceived one another. That night, she wrote down all her ideas in a notebook, unable to stop smiling as she imagined the future. Rachel knew this journey would be challenging, but she was ready. Rachel knew that to complete the acquisition of the Plaza Center, she had to negotiate with extreme caution and finesse. With each step, she kept her identity secret, collaborating with trusted intermediaries so that no one would know that a wealthy woman of color was behind this effort. This was not just a financial deal for Rachel, it was a revolution. The venture began with Rachel reaching out to smaller shareholders, those who were tired of the Plaza Center's precarious financial situation. These shareholders, feeling the pressure as the center gradually lost its standing, were eager to sell their stakes for a quick profit. Rachel bought their shares at a price above market value, a tactic they could not refuse. But she knew that to truly change the Plaza Center, she had to gain control from the larger shareholders, those who were trying to protect the luxurious and exclusive image they had built over the years. Through intermediaries, Rachel started to approach larger investors and tried to present her plan, but she immediately faced opposition. Many of the Plaza Center's major investors held rigid and conservative views, worried that changing the structure and expanding the customer base could strip the center of its inherent luxury. Some even argued that increasing inclusivity would diminish the brand value, making the Plaza Center seem more common in the eyes of affluent customers. In a closed meeting, one of the major investors, Mr. Richard Walton, who had been one of the founding shareholders of the Plaza Center, spoke up with a challenging tone. He doubted the effectiveness of the restructuring and believed that broadening the customer base would be detrimental to the brand. "We have built the Plaza Center as a place reserved for those with status and class," he said arrogantly. "If we expand the customer base as proposed, we may lose the loyal clientele that has been with us for many years." Rachel's representative, a sharp negotiator, quickly responded. They argued that modern consumer trends had shifted. Their research showed that today's younger customers did not just evaluate a shopping center based on luxury images but also cared about the core values it represented. The Plaza Center needed to adapt and change to survive in a rapidly evolving world, and inclusivity was the factor that would set the center apart and ensure its longevity. Rachel had thoroughly prepared for these meetings, armed with data and examples from shopping centers around the world that had transformed into inclusive models and thrived. She cited a shopping center in San Francisco, a place that had once symbolized opulence but had become a destination for everyone, from creative young people to families, after the overhaul. That center not only increased its customer traffic but also significantly boosted revenue from the diverse services and products it offered. "The Plaza Center can still maintain its luxury," Rachel's representative stated, "but it does not need to exclude anyone to do so. On the contrary, inclusivity will add value, turning the center into a true symbol of genuine class, a place where anyone can feel welcomed and respected." The meeting grew tense as some investors leaned toward Rachel's side, but the more conservative members remained steadfast in their opposition. Walton spoke again, his tone defiant. "We have managed the Plaza Center for years without such changes. We know what is right for our clientele. No one wants to see a shopping center filled with those who do not fit the image of the Plaza Center." But Rachel's representative, calm and professional, replied, "If we do not change, the Plaza Center will continue to lose customers and face financial difficulties. This is not a far-fetched prediction, it is a reality that has occurred in many places. Other conservative centers have closed down or suffered severe profit declines because they failed to respond to changing customer demands." Rachel understood that to overcome these barriers, she needed to prove that her vision was not just a vague idea but had solid business value. She planned a private meeting with the most influential investors, those whose voices held the most weight. She decided to participate directly and reveal her identity. She knew this could create a shock and provoke a strong reaction, but it was the only way to persuade them of the need for change. On the day of the meeting, Rachel walked into the conference room with unwavering confidence. The investors were stunned to realize that the woman before them was someone they had heard about for a long time but never imagined would be interested in the Plaza Center. In that moment of surprise, some felt apprehensive, but Rachel did not give them a chance to ask questions. "I understand that changing the Plaza Center is a significant challenge," Rachel began, her gaze resolute, "but we have no choice if we want the center to survive and thrive. I believe that inclusivity and expanding the customer base will not only rescue the Plaza Center's financial situation but also bring lasting value. Today's customers seek places that are not only luxurious but also have community value and respect for everyone." Some investors seemed hesitant, but Rachel continued. "I am willing to offer a fair price, ensuring that everyone here will receive substantial returns from this investment. But if we do not change, the Plaza Center's fate will remain uncertain. This is not just a takeover, it is an opportunity for the Plaza Center to become a symbol of a new generation." After weeks of dramatic discussions and negotiations, each of the major investors gradually accepted Rachel's proposal. She had proven that the Plaza Center could be restructured to become sustainable and profitable, and that her vision was not just an ideal but the future of this shopping center. As the deal was finalized, Rachel reflected on the entire process with satisfaction. This was not just her victory, it was a triumph of the ideals she pursued. Now, she knew she was one step closer to her goal of transforming the Plaza Center into a symbol of inclusivity and innovation in the retail industry. The next morning, Rachel walked into the Plaza Center with a completely different feeling than before. No longer a coldly treated stranger, she returned as the new owner. This time, she held power not just within the bricks of the plaza center, but in her hands to bring imminent change. She wore a perfectly tailored black suit, complemented by black high heels. Each step Rachel took on the marble floor resonated with strength and authority. All eyes turned to her. Employees whispered among themselves, with some recognizing her as the guest who had once been treated dismissively because of her skin color. A mixture of confusion and astonishment was evident on their faces. But Rachel merely smiled gently, continuing her confident stride. It was time for everyone there to know that this center would no longer be the exclusive, discriminatory place it once was. Rachel walked straight to the reception desk where she had previously been coldly dismissed. The receptionist, the young woman who had looked at her with disdain, now stood frozen, unable to hide her embarrassment. Rachel paused in front of her, displaying no hostility, but her sharp eyes spoke volumes. "Good morning," Rachel said, her tone calm yet firm. "Today, I am not here as a customer." Before the girl could respond, the center's manager, Mr. Richard Jones, was informed and quickly appeared. Richard, who had previously rejected Rachel with disdain, approached with a reluctant yet tense smile. He recognized her immediately, and a flicker of concern crossed his face as he saw her in this entirely different role. She was no longer a customer to be ignored but the one holding the power to decide his fate. "Hello, Miss Simmons, hello, boss," Richard stammered, trying to maintain his composure. I sincerely apologize for the incident last time. There may have been a misunderstanding." Rachel stood silently, looking at him with piercing eyes, her face revealing no emotion. "Misunderstanding?" she asked, her voice calm but resolute. "Discrimination and prejudice are never misunderstandings, Mr. Jones. That was your choice, a choice you made the moment you laid eyes on me." Richard flinched slightly, trying to justify himself. I was just adhering to the center's standards, Miss Simmons. Plaza Center has always aimed to maintain a luxurious and upscale image. I just wanted to ensure everything aligned with the image we've built." Rachel stared at him, neither nodding nor showing acceptance. After a moment, she spoke with firmness. "True luxury does not lie in excluding others, Mr. Jones, but in how we treat everyone with respect. I'm not here to accept an apology from you. I'm here to demand a change." Richard stood silent, unsure of what to say. He never expected that the woman he had once looked down upon would now stand in such a position of power and demand he change his behavior. Rachel continued. "I won't ask you to resign, but I will hold you to one condition: you must change your mindset, alter your service approach, and learn to respect everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from. If you cannot do that, then we will have to part ways." Richard nodded repeatedly, too afraid to protest. He mumbled his agreement, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety. For him, Rachel was not just an owner, she was the one who now controlled his future at the Plaza Center. Rachel knew her words had left a strong impression, but she wouldn't stop there. She turned to face all the staff in the lobby who had been silently observing the exchange. She stepped forward and raised her voice so that everyone could hear. "I stand here today not to seek revenge or criticize anyone. I want the Plaza Center to become a place where anyone is welcomed, not because they meet some arbitrary standard, but because we value every person who comes here with respect and dignity." The employees stood still, none daring to speak, but a few began to nod in agreement. They could sense that Rachel was not just an ordinary owner, but someone ready to transform this place into a source of pride. Rachel's feelings were not only driven by a desire to change the Plaza Center, but also by the painful memories she had endured. Each time she thought about the discrimination she had faced, the cold stares, the unfriendly remarks from staff, her heart felt heavy. But today, she wouldn't allow those emotions to overwhelm her. Instead, she decided to channel that pain into motivation for change. A sense of nervousness crept into her heart as she looked into the eyes of each employee. She noticed the tension, anxiety, and even skepticism in their gazes. Perhaps they were used to strict standards and felt uneasy about the change. But Rachel couldn't let that hold her back. She wanted them to see the change was not only necessary but also a good thing, bringing benefits for everyone. "We can all learn from the mistakes of the past," Rachel continued, her voice now softer yet still full of determination. "I don't want any of you to go through what I've been through. I am here to build a positive work environment together, where every employee has a voice and feels valued." A few employees began exchanging glances, sensing the sincerity in Rachel's words. The once cold stares began to warm. Fear and doubt gradually gave way to hope. They started to envision a new plaza center where no one would be discriminated against and everyone could shine with their unique abilities. Rachel felt a wave of new energy spreading through the room. She continued, "I want to encourage all of you to participate in this restructuring process. We need each person's contribution to create a better working environment. This is not just my responsibility, it is ours, together." A young employee, seemingly hesitant, bravely spoke up. "But what if we face opposition?" This question made the atmosphere in the lobby heavier. Rachel did not hesitate. She nodded. "There will be challenges, but I believe that if we unite and support each other, nothing is insurmountable." Rachel knew that changing a deeply rooted culture wouldn't be easy. But she also felt her determination growing stronger. She had seen the positive change in the employees' eyes, and that made her believe they could build a new plaza center together. She was ready to lead, not only as an owner but also with compassion and sincerity. Rachel's emotions surged as she concluded her speech with a powerful call to action. "We have the opportunity to be part of a bigger story. Let's work together to make the Plaza Center a symbol of inclusivity and respect. We can do this. Together, we will create a place where everyone feels welcomed and valued." Applause erupted, a clear sign that everyone was ready to embark on this journey with Rachel. Their emotions were beginning to shift, and the atmosphere in the lobby became filled with hope. Rachel understood that this was just the beginning, but she also knew that with determination and teamwork, the Plaza Center would soon become the place everyone dreamed of. Rachel stepped out of the lobby and made her way to her office, now situated in the Plaza Center's executive wing. She had won the first battle, but she understood that this journey would be far from easy. To truly transform the Plaza Center, she needed to address the deeper issues within its culture and policies. That same day, Rachel called a meeting with her leadership team to outline her vision. "We're not just changing a building," Rachel said firmly. "We're transforming how this place operates, how it welcomes people, and how it stands as a symbol of fairness and progress." She began by identifying key policies that needed to be revised. Rachel emphasized that the Plaza Center would no longer tolerate discriminatory practices or exclusionary behavior. New guidelines would focus on fairness, respect, and inclusivity at every level of the organization. Rachel's first major step was implementing a comprehensive retraining program for all staff. From managers to service employees, everyone would undergo training to help them understand the importance of diversity, inclusivity, and respect. Rachel brought in renowned experts in social justice, customer service, and implicit bias training to lead the sessions. Each session focused on practical approaches to creating a welcoming environment while addressing the biases that had plagued the Plaza Center for so long. Rachel made it clear that participation in the retraining was not optional. She addressed her leadership team with unwavering authority. "If we are to rebuild this place, we need every single employee to understand that inclusivity isn't a choice, it's a value we live by. If anyone refuses to change, there will be no place for them here." Over the following weeks, the retraining program began to roll out. Employees initially approached it with skepticism. Some longtime staff, especially those who had upheld the old, exclusionary policies, quietly resisted. They muttered that this was just a phase and speculated that things would go back to how they were. But Rachel's leadership team, armed with her clear directives, ensured accountability. Rachel made it a point to personally visit several sessions. Her presence in the room changed the atmosphere. Employees who had once been dismissive began to take the training seriously when they saw her commitment. Rachel participated in the discussions, listening intently to employees as they shared their thoughts, hesitations, and hopes for the future. During one session, an older employee spoke up. "I've worked here for over 20 years, he said, his voice cautious. "We've always followed certain rules because we thought that's what kept this place exclusive. But now, you're asking us to change everything. I'm not sure people will accept it. Rachel responded with calm and clarity. I appreciate your honesty, she said. But think about this: what has exclusivity really achieved? We've excluded more than we've welcomed. And what's the result? The Plaza Center is struggling to survive. I'm not asking you to abandon standards, I'm asking you to raise them. True luxury is about how we treat people, not who we turn away. If we embrace this change, not only will we succeed financially, but we will also build a place where people feel proud to come, employees and customers alike. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Slowly, employees began to nod, their skepticism softening. By the end of the session, the older employee approached Rachel. I didn't understand at first, but now I see what you're trying to do, he admitted. Maybe it's time we all think differently. Moments like these fueled Rachel's resolve. She knew she was not just reshaping a business, she was reshaping mindsets. The retraining program began to take hold. Employees learned how to recognize and confront their biases. Sessions included role-playing scenarios where staff practiced welcoming and assisting customers of all backgrounds with respect and sincerity. Workshops on cultural sensitivity, communication, and customer engagement became regular features at the Plaza Center. Slowly but surely, the atmosphere began to shift. Rachel also focused on reforming the leadership team. She implemented policies to ensure that management positions were filled based on merit, not personal biases. Hiring processes were revised to include diverse candidates, and promotions were awarded transparently. She emphasized that leadership should reflect the inclusivity she was building. In addition to internal reforms, Rachel worked to rebuild the Plaza Center's relationship with the community. She invited local organizations, cultural groups, and small businesses to collaborate. Rachel announced initiatives to host community events within the Plaza Center, including art exhibitions, youth mentoring programs, and cultural festivals. These efforts were aimed at positioning the Plaza Center as not just a shopping destination, but a hub of connection and shared experiences. Rachel's plans also included a complete rebranding of the Plaza Center's public image. She hired a team of creative designers and marketing experts to create a campaign that highlighted the center's transformation. The campaign emphasized inclusivity, diversity, and community values. Slogans like "luxury for everyone" and "a place where you belong" began appearing on billboards, social media, and in advertisements across the city. The rebranding campaign featured stories of real employees and customers who had experienced positive changes since Rachel took ownership. It humanized the Plaza Center, turning it into a symbol of hope and opportunity. Customers who had previously avoided the Plaza Center because of its reputation for exclusivity now felt encouraged to return. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Rachel continued to monitor the financial performance of the Plaza Center. With the changes in full swing, revenue began to show signs of recovery. Foot traffic increased as more customers, especially younger, diverse crowds, came to experience the new Plaza Center. Shops that had struggled to stay open saw improved sales, and new tenants expressed interest in opening stores within the revitalized center. The transformation was not without resistance. Some of the Plaza Center's older clientele, accustomed to its former image, expressed displeasure. They complained to management and even sent letters voicing their discontent. One such letter reached Rachel's desk. "I've been shopping at the Plaza Center for years," it read. "I'm not interested in sharing my space with people who don't belong here. This used to be a place for people of class, but now you're turning it into something common." Rachel read the letter and placed it down with a sigh. She knew these challenges would arise, but she refused to be deterred. Instead of reacting in anger, she saw it as an opportunity to continue educating others about her vision. She addressed the concerns publicly in an interview with a major news outlet. "Change is difficult," Rachel said during the interview. "But it's necessary. For too long, exclusivity has been mistaken for class. True class lies in how we treat others, with dignity, respect, and fairness. The Plaza Center is not losing its value, it's gaining a new purpose. We are creating a space where everyone, regardless of their background, feels welcome. This isn't about lowering standards, it's about raising them." Her words resonated with many viewers, sparking conversations about inclusivity and equality in businesses. Support for Rachel's efforts grew as more people began to understand the depth of her mission. Within months, the Plaza Center had transformed into a vibrant, welcoming space. The changes were visible not just in the physical environment but also in the energy of the people who worked and shopped there. Employees greeted customers warmly, regardless of their appearance or background. Families, young professionals, and diverse groups of friends filled the mall, creating an atmosphere of life and connection. One Saturday afternoon, Rachel walked through the Plaza Center with Anna by her side. They observed the bustling crowds, the laughter of children echoing through the halls, and the diverse range of people enjoying the center's amenities. A sense of pride swelled within Rachel's chest. "Look at this place," Anna said, smiling. "It's exactly what you envisioned." Rachel nodded, her eyes scanning the happy faces around her. "This is just the beginning," she replied softly. "We're proving that businesses can thrive when they embrace everyone." The Plaza Center isn't just a shopping mall anymore, it's a symbol of what's possible. Rachel's success attracted attention on a national scale. News outlets covered the Plaza Center's transformation, praising it as a groundbreaking example of how inclusivity could coexist with luxury and profitability. Interviews with Rachel highlighted her journey, her struggles, and her unwavering determination to create change. During one interview, the host asked her, "What drives you to keep going, even in the face of so much resistance?" Rachel smiled thoughtfully before answering. "I think about every little girl who looks like me, who might walk into a place and feel like she doesn't belong. I want her to know that she does belong, that her worth is not defined by someone else's prejudice. That's what drives me. We're not just changing one shopping center, we're changing the narrative." As Rachel continued her work, other business leaders began reaching out to her for advice on implementing similar reforms in their organizations. Rachel recognized the opportunity to expand her vision beyond the Plaza Center. She began hosting seminars and workshops for businesses across the country, sharing her strategies for fostering inclusivity while maintaining financial success. She and her team created a blueprint, a comprehensive guide on how businesses could embrace diversity, eliminate biases, and create welcoming spaces. The blueprint included practical tools, from retraining programs to inclusive hiring practices. Rachel made it available to any business owner who wanted to create positive change. Her efforts began to inspire a movement. Shopping centers, hotels, and businesses across the nation started implementing reforms modeled after the Plaza Center's success. Rachel's vision was no longer limited to one building, it had become a catalyst for change across the industry. At a conference attended by CEOs and community leaders, Rachel delivered a powerful closing speech. "We all have a responsibility to create spaces where people feel valued. Inclusion isn't just good for business, it's good for humanity. It's about recognizing that our differences are what make us stronger. Together, we can build a world where everyone belongs." The audience erupted into applause, moved by Rachel's words. She had become not just a business icon but a leader in the fight for equality and inclusivity. Months after her sweeping reforms took root at the Plaza Center, Rachel's vision continued to ripple outward, inspiring businesses across the country. Her ability to combine profitability with social change made her a sought-after voice in both business and activist circles. The Plaza Center had become a symbol of possibility, a place that defied old norms and welcomed people from all walks of life. Walking through the center one day, Rachel noticed subtle yet powerful changes. Employees greeted every customer warmly, creating an atmosphere of genuine welcome. Families, couples, and young professionals from different cultural and racial backgrounds filled the space. The formerly empty halls were now buzzing with activity, and the businesses inside the Plaza Center were thriving. New boutique shops, restaurants, and creative pop-up stores brought fresh energy, appealing to younger generations and diverse communities alike. Rachel smiled as she passed by a group of teenagers laughing and snapping selfies in front of a newly designed mural that covered an entire wall. The artwork celebrated diversity, featuring vibrant images of people from all races and cultures coming together as one. The message painted boldly across the bottom read, "Everyone belongs." Anna, who was by Rachel's side, noticed her observing the scene. "You've turned this place into more than just a mall," Anna said softly. "It's a community." Rachel nodded. That was always the goal. A space like this shouldn't divide people, it should bring them together. The Plaza Center's success quickly became a case study in major business schools. Professors discussed Rachel's approach to combining social responsibility with sound business practices, teaching aspiring leaders how inclusivity could drive both profitability and lasting cultural change. Reports showed a dramatic increase in foot traffic, customer satisfaction, and tenant revenues at the Plaza Center. What had once been a struggling, outdated venue was now hailed as a thriving hub of progress and connection. But Rachel knew that her work wasn't finished. Over the coming months, Rachel and Anna worked together to expand their efforts. They developed partnerships with community organizations, offering spaces within the Plaza Center for workshops, art showcases, and local events. Rachel wanted the Plaza Center to represent the heartbeat of the city, a place where culture and commerce could coexist harmoniously. One Saturday afternoon, the Plaza Center hosted a Voices of the City event, a celebration of local artists, musicians, and entrepreneurs. The event featured spoken word performances, live music, and handmade crafts from small businesses. Families wandered through the center, enjoying the festivities and connecting with the creative energy of their community. Rachel watched from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. It was moments like these that reminded her why she had fought so hard to transform this place. She saw children laughing as they danced to the music, artists proudly displaying their work, and people from different backgrounds engaging with one another as equals. Anna joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "It's incredible how much has changed here," Anna said, handing Rachel a cup. Rachel smiled. "Change always starts small, but when you keep pushing, it grows into something bigger than you imagined." "You're not done, though, are you?" Anna asked knowingly. Rachel shook her head, her expression determined. "No. The Plaza Center is just the beginning. We've proven what's possible here, and now it's time to take this movement further." Rachel's next goal was clear: expand her model of inclusivity and fairness to other struggling shopping centers across the country. She and her team created a strategy to identify malls and businesses that were failing due to outdated practices and exclusionary policies. These centers, much like the Plaza Center before its transformation, were clinging to old ideas of luxury and driving customers away in the process. Rachel began reaching out to investors, sharing her vision for creating spaces that were inclusive, profitable, and socially impactful. Her reputation as a business leader gave her credibility, and her proven success at the Plaza Center drew interest from influential figures in the industry. Within months, Rachel's company secured agreements to take over 2 struggling shopping centers in neighboring states. Both centers were grappling with financial decline and reputational issues. Rachel approached each project with the same meticulous care and unwavering vision she had brought to the Plaza Center. At the first center, located in a mid-sized city, Rachel introduced her signature rebranding strategy. She hosted community events, engaged local organizations, and implemented retraining programs for staff. Just like before, she emphasized the importance of treating every customer with dignity and respect. She worked tirelessly to ensure the space felt welcoming, vibrant, and inclusive. The second center presented a greater challenge. It was located in an affluent neighborhood where resistance to change was strong. Some local residents protested Rachel's plans, arguing that opening the doors to everyone would tarnish the center's elite image. Rather than back down, Rachel met with community leaders and residents, patiently addressing their concerns. Exclusivity may have worked in the past, Rachel explained during a town hall meeting, but the world is changing. Today, people want spaces that reflect their values, places where everyone feels like they belong. Inclusivity doesn't lower the standard of a place, it elevates it. Some residents remained skeptical, but others began to listen. Rachel's honesty and transparency gradually won them over. Once the changes were implemented, the center saw a steady rise in foot traffic and sales. Families who had previously avoided the space now felt comfortable visiting. Local businesses reported growth, and the center's reputation began to recover. Rachel's success in transforming these centers cemented her status as a trailblazer in the retail industry. Media outlets covered her efforts extensively, celebrating her as a visionary leader who was redefining what luxury and success looked like. She became a sought-after speaker at conferences and business summits, where she shared her insights on leadership, inclusion, and innovation. During one keynote address, Rachel stood before a packed auditorium of executives, entrepreneurs, and changemakers. "The future of business isn't about exclusion, it's about connection," she said passionately. "When you create spaces where people feel welcomed and valued, you're not just building a business, you're building a community. And when people feel they belong, they show up not just as customers, but as partners in your success." The audience erupted in applause, inspired by her words. Rachel's message resonated far beyond the business world, touching people from all walks of life who had faced exclusion, prejudice, or bias. She had become more than a successful entrepreneur, she was a symbol of resilience, determination, and hope. Back at the Plaza Center, Rachel's vision continued to thrive. The once ignored shopping center had become a model for others to follow. Its success wasn't just measured in profits, though revenue had reached record highs. The real success lay in the people who filled its halls, families, friends, and individuals who felt a sense of belonging every time they walked through its doors. One evening, Rachel stood on the balcony of her office, overlooking the bustling scene below. She watched as children played in a nearby public area, couples sat together at a cafe, and artists set up their work for display. The Plaza Center was alive, and it was everything she had imagined it could be. Anna entered the office, breaking Rachel's quiet reflection. "You've done it, Rachel," Anna said softly. Rachel turned to face her, a small smile on her lips. "We've done it," she corrected. "This wouldn't have been possible without the people who believed in this vision and worked to make it a reality." "What's next?" Anna asked, though she already knew the answer. Rachel looked out at the vibrant scene below, her expression thoughtful. "We keep going," she said. "There are more places to transform, more people to reach. This is only the beginning." Rachel understood that her work was far from over. The journey she had started at the Plaza Center had grown into something much larger, a movement for change, for fairness, and for inclusivity. And as long as there were spaces where people felt excluded, she would keep fighting to create places where everyone belonged. Rachel Simmons was no longer just a billionaire businesswoman. She was a pioneer, a leader, and a beacon of hope. Her legacy would not be measured in buildings or profits alone, but in the lives she touched and the change she inspired. And as she looked toward the future, Rachel knew that the world could be different, because she was making it so. Rachel's work began to attract a wave of young entrepreneurs and aspiring leaders who saw her as a role model. Invitations to mentor programs, leadership panels, and public speaking events poured in. Schools, universities, and organizations sought her expertise, eager to learn about her approach to combining business innovation with social impact. One such event was a leadership summit for young women in business. The conference hall was filled with eager faces, students, young professionals, and emerging leaders, all looking to Rachel for guidance. Rachel stood on the stage, calm and composed, as she began her address. "I started my journey with nothing but a dream and the belief that I could create something meaningful," Rachel began, her voice steady and inspiring. "But along the way, I encountered barriers I didn't build but had to break through. I was told I didn't belong, that I didn't look the part. But every no I heard fueled my determination to prove that success isn't defined by someone else's perception of you, it's defined by the belief you have in yourself." The audience listened intently, hanging on to every word. Rachel's story wasn't just about financial success, it was about resilience, courage, and the ability to lead change. "The Plaza Center wasn't just a project for me," Rachel continued. "It was a promise. A promise to myself, to my community, and to anyone who has ever felt overlooked or undervalued. That promise was simple: to create spaces where everyone feels they belong. And I'm standing here today to tell you that you can do the same. Your ideas, your voices, and your dreams matter. You just need to believe that you are worthy of creating the change you want to see." As Rachel concluded her speech, the room erupted into applause. Young women approached her afterward, eager to share their stories, ask for advice, and express their admiration. Rachel made time for each one of them, offering words of encouragement and practical tips for navigating the challenges they faced. One young woman, with tears in her eyes, said, "I've always felt like my background would hold me back. Hearing your story gives me hope that I can make a difference, too." Rachel smiled warmly, placing a hand on the young woman's shoulder. Never let anyone tell you where you do or don't belong. You define your place in this world. Rachel returned home that night, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Her influence was spreading far beyond the Plaza Center, reaching people who needed to see the change was possible. But she knew her mission was far from complete. Back at the Plaza Center, Rachel's next focus was ensuring that the changes she had implemented would last for generations. She worked with her team to develop long-term programs designed to sustain the center's inclusive culture. These included annual diversity training, mentorship initiatives for employees, and partnerships with local schools and nonprofits to provide internships and job opportunities for underrepresented youth. One day, during a tour of the Plaza Center, Rachel noticed a group of teenagers working part-time in one of the stores. She approached them, curious about their experiences. "Do you enjoy working here?" Rachel asked, smiling warmly. One of the teenagers, a young black girl named Maya, nodded enthusiastically. "I love it here," she said. "I feel like people actually care about us. It's not just a job, it's a place where we're treated with respect." Rachel felt a deep sense of fulfillment hearing those words. It reminded her of her younger self, of all the times she had walked into places where she felt invisible, where respect was denied to her simply because of her skin color. Maya looked up at Rachel with wide eyes. "You're the one who owns this place, right? You made all of this happen?" Rachel smiled. "I had a vision, but it took a lot of people working together to make it a reality. And now, it's up to people like you to keep that vision alive." Maya grinned. "I want to be like you one day. I want to own a business and help people, too." Rachel knelt slightly to meet Maya's gaze. "You can, and you will," she said confidently. "It starts with believing in yourself and never giving up. If you ever need guidance, you know where to find me." Moments like this reaffirmed Rachel's purpose. She wasn't just transforming buildings, she was transforming lives, inspiring future generations to see the possibilities within themselves. As the Plaza Center continued to flourish, Rachel received an unexpected letter from Richard Jones, the manager who had once dismissed her. Curious, she opened it. "Dear Ms. Simmons, I owe you an apology. When you first walked into the Plaza Center, I couldn't see past my own biases. I judged you, and I made assumptions about who you were and what you deserved. Watching the transformation of this place and the impact it's had on so many lives has opened my eyes. You've shown me that true leadership is about inclusion, compassion, and the courage to do what's right. Thank you for giving me a chance to learn and grow. I hope to continue serving this center in a way that honors your vision. Sincerely, Richard Jones." Rachel set the letter down, feeling a mixture of surprise and satisfaction. Change, she realized, often began with resistance. But when people were given the opportunity to learn and grow, transformation was possible even in those who had once been part of the problem. She shared the letter with Anna, who smiled knowingly. "You turned an opponent into an ally," Anna said. "That's not easy to do." Rachel nodded. "People can change. Sometimes they just need to see a different way." Rachel's ability to lead with empathy and resolve became her defining trait. She didn't see her work as a battle against individuals but as a battle against outdated systems and mindsets. And with every success, she proved that businesses could thrive when they embraced fairness, inclusivity, and progress. Months later, the Plaza Center celebrated its one-year anniversary under Rachel's ownership. The center organized a community-wide event to mark the occasion. Local artists, musicians, and small businesses filled the space with energy and color. Families wandered through the halls, enjoying the festivities and marveling at how far the Plaza Center had come. Rachel stood on a small stage set up in the main atrium, looking out at the crowd that had gathered. She saw children playing, teenagers laughing, and elders chatting with one another. The Plaza Center had become everything she had hoped for, a place where everyone felt they belonged. "Thank you for being here today," Rachel began, her voice carrying through the atrium. When I first walked into this building, I was told that I didn't belong here. But instead of walking away, I made a choice. I chose to create change. Today, the Plaza Center stands as proof that when we embrace everyone, we create something beautiful. This is not just my success, it's ours. It's a testament to what's possible when we come together, when we choose to lift one another up instead of tearing each other down. The crowd erupted into applause, and Rachel felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had come so far, from being dismissed as an outsider to standing here as a leader, a pioneer, and an inspiration. Anna approached her after the speech, beaming with pride. "You did it, Rachel. You turned a moment of rejection into a movement for change." Rachel smiled, looking out at the bustling scene around her. "We all did this," she said softly. "And this is just the beginning." As the sun set on the Plaza Center's anniversary celebration, Rachel felt an overwhelming sense of peace and accomplishment. She knew the journey wasn't over. There were more places to change, more barriers to break, and more people to uplift. But for now, as she stood surrounded by the laughter and joy of her community, Rachel knew she had created something that would last. A legacy of hope. A legacy of belonging. And a future where everyone had a place. In the months that followed, Rachel continued to expand her work beyond the Plaza Center. The success of her first project had inspired both local and national interest, attracting partnerships, media attention, and new investment opportunities. Rachel, now widely recognized as both a business leader and a social reformer, used her influence to amplify her mission of creating inclusive spaces across industries. She began her next major initiative, an ambitious project to identify and transform failing commercial properties across the country. With the support of her growing team and trusted partners, Rachel launched a foundation dedicated to the mission of inclusivity and economic empowerment. The foundation's primary goal was to revitalize neglected shopping centers, workplaces, and public spaces while promoting opportunities for marginalized communities. At the official launch of the foundation, Rachel stood before an audience of investors, community leaders, and young professionals who admired her vision. She spoke with the same passion and clarity that had carried her through every challenge. "When I first stepped into the Plaza Center, I saw more than a building," Rachel said. "I saw what it could be, a place where people feel seen, valued, and connected. That's what we're creating with this foundation. We're not just fixing buildings. We're building communities where opportunity has no limits and where every person belongs." The room erupted into applause, but Rachel's eyes were focused on the future. She knew that her foundation would be the catalyst for countless transformations to come. Her first project under the foundation's banner targeted a once iconic shopping center located in the heart of a struggling Midwestern town. The center, abandoned for years, had become a symbol of decline: empty storefronts, broken windows, and graffiti-covered walls. The community surrounding it had also suffered economically, with businesses closing and families moving away in search of better opportunities. When Rachel visited the site for the first time, she was struck by the silence. The space that had once been alive with energy and movement now sat eerily still. Anna, who had accompanied her, frowned as she took in the scene. "This place feels forgotten," Anna said quietly. Rachel, however, saw potential beneath the decay. She turned to Anna, determination lighting up her face. "It's not forgotten," Rachel replied. "It's waiting to be reborn." Over the next several weeks, Rachel and her team worked tirelessly to create a revitalization plan. They engaged local community leaders, small business owners, and residents to ensure that the transformation reflected the town's needs and aspirations. Rachel made it clear that this project wasn't just about renovating a building, it was about breathing new life into the community. She hosted open forums where residents could voice their concerns, share ideas, and participate in the planning process. At one of the meetings, an elderly man stood up and spoke with a shaky voice. "This place used to be the heart of our town," he said. "We brought our kids here to play, to shop, to dream. I never thought I'd see it alive again. Thank you for giving us hope." Rachel's heart swelled as she listened to the stories shared by the community. Every person she met strengthened her resolve to make the project a success. Once construction began, Rachel ensured that the revitalization process created jobs for local workers. She prioritized contracts with minority-owned businesses and hired tradespeople from the community. The site, once quiet and neglected, buzzed with activity as crews worked day and night to bring Rachel's vision to life. Months later, the grand reopening of the shopping center marked a turning point for the town. The once abandoned space had been completely transformed into a modern, vibrant hub filled with local businesses, community spaces, and cultural art displays. A beautiful new mural stretched across the front entrance, painted by a local artist. Its message was simple but powerful: "This is our home. Together, we rise." The reopening event drew crowds from across the town. Families wandered through the revitalized center, amazed by its beauty and energy. Local entrepreneurs beamed as they welcomed customers into their new stores. Children laughed as they played in designated spaces designed just for them. The town, which had once felt defeated, now pulsed with hope and possibility. Rachel stood on the stage in the center courtyard, looking out at the faces in the crowd. People smiled up at her: residents, workers, business owners, and families whose lives had been touched by this project. "This isn't just a building," Rachel began, her voice carrying over the crowd. "This is a promise to this town, to its people, and to the generations that will come after us. We've proven that when we work together, we can rebuild what was lost. We can create spaces that bring us together, spaces that inspire hope, opportunity, and connection." The crowd erupted into cheers and applause. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes as she looked around, knowing that she had delivered on her commitment. She turned to Anna, who stood beside her, and smiled. "Do you see it, Anna?" Rachel asked softly. "This is why we keep going." Anna nodded, wiping her eyes. "It's beautiful, Rachel. You've given this town its heart back." The success of the project garnered national attention. News outlets covered the reopening, celebrating Rachel as a visionary leader who was revitalizing not just spaces, but entire communities. Social media buzzed with photos and videos of the event, with people sharing stories of how the new center had already begun making a difference in their lives. Rachel's foundation became a beacon of hope for struggling communities across the country. Requests for partnerships and consultations poured in from cities and towns eager to replicate her model of inclusive revitalization. Rachel, however, remained selective, focusing on projects that aligned with her values and where her impact would be felt the most. Over the next 2 years, Rachel's foundation completed multiple revitalization projects. Abandoned malls, neglected commercial spaces, and underutilized properties were transformed into thriving community centers. Each project reflected Rachel's signature approach, welcoming spaces designed with diversity, accessibility, and opportunity in mind. Her team worked tirelessly to ensure that the transformations created jobs, empowered local businesses, and celebrated the unique cultures of each community. Rachel's work also inspired a new generation of leaders. Young professionals, entrepreneurs, and activists looked to her as a mentor and guide. She launched scholarship programs to support aspiring business leaders from underrepresented backgrounds and hosted mentorship events where she shared her journey and insights. At one such event, a young woman approached Rachel with a determined look in her eyes. "Ms. Simmons, I want to start my own company, but I'm scared," she admitted. "What if I fail?" Rachel smiled warmly, remembering the fears she had faced when she started her own journey. "Failure isn't the end," Rachel said gently. "It's a lesson. Every no you hear, every challenge you face, it's preparing you for something bigger. The only way you truly fail is if you stop trying. Keep going, even when it's hard. That's how you build something that lasts." The young woman nodded, her eyes shining with newfound confidence. "Thank you, Ms. Simmons. I'll remember that." Moments like these reminded Rachel why her work mattered. She wasn't just transforming spaces, she was transforming lives, empowering people to believe in themselves and their ability to create change. As Rachel's influence continued to grow, she was invited to speak at international conferences and forums. Her message of inclusion, fairness, and visionary leadership resonated with audiences around the world. People from all walks of life connected with her story, the story of a woman who had turned rejection into opportunity, who had refused to accept the status quo and dared to dream of a better world. Standing on a stage before thousands at a global leadership summit, Rachel delivered a closing message that encapsulated her life's work. We all have the power to create change. It doesn't matter where you come from or what barriers stand in your way. Change begins when you decide to take that first step, to challenge what's wrong, to lift others up, and to believe that a better future is possible. Together, we can build a world where everyone belongs. The audience rose to their feet, applauding Rachel's words. As she stood there, taking in the energy of the crowd, Rachel felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had been long and challenging, but every moment had led her to this point. Rachel Simmons had become more than a businesswoman. She was a leader, a changemaker, and a beacon of hope. Her legacy was not measured in wealth or success alone, but in the lives she touched, the communities she rebuilt, and the future she helped create. And she knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. As Rachel's movement gained momentum, she began to receive invitations from global organizations and governments seeking her insight on revitalizing neglected spaces and implementing inclusive policies. Her work had become a blueprint for social and economic change, proving that a vision rooted in equity and fairness could breathe new life into entire communities. One day, Rachel was invited to deliver a keynote address at an international conference on urban development. Leaders, policymakers, and innovators from around the world gathered in a grand hall to listen to her insights. As she stepped onto the stage, the audience fell silent, eager to hear the words of the woman who had inspired a movement. Cities are the heartbeats of our world, Rachel began, her voice steady and full of purpose. But too often, parts of those hearts are left to decay. Spaces become neglected. Communities become forgotten. And opportunities are lost. My work began with a rejection, an experience that told me I didn't belong. But I refused to let that moment define me. Instead, I asked myself, what if we created spaces where everyone belongs, spaces where businesses thrive, families gather, and people from all walks of life find opportunities to grow? Rachel paused, allowing her words to resonate. Revitalization isn't just about buildings. It's about people. It's about reconnecting communities and giving them a reason to hope again. That's what we did with the Plaza Center, and that's what we continue to do, because inclusivity is not just a moral value, it's a practical solution. When people feel valued, they contribute. When they contribute, businesses flourish. When businesses flourish, communities rise. This is how we create sustainable, thriving cities for generations to come. The audience erupted into applause. Rachel's message struck a chord with leaders who had long struggled to address inequality and economic stagnation. She spent the next few days participating in workshops, sharing strategies, and forming partnerships with leaders eager to implement her methods in their own cities. After the conference, Rachel's foundation began receiving international inquiries. Countries with struggling urban centers invited her team to collaborate on transformation projects. Rachel carefully selected initiatives that aligned with her vision, ensuring that every project prioritized community involvement, job creation, and sustainable growth. Meanwhile, back in the United States, Rachel's work was sparking a larger cultural shift. Major corporations began revisiting their own policies, inspired by her success. Businesses that had once clung to exclusionary practices began adopting inclusive strategies, implementing diversity training, revising hiring processes, and creating environments where all customers felt welcomed. Media outlets dubbed this movement the Rachel Simmons effect, a term that symbolized the power of inclusivity to transform not just spaces but entire industries. One afternoon, Rachel sat in her office at the Plaza Center, surrounded by architectural plans and reports from ongoing projects. Anna walked in with a stack of letters and emails. "These just came in," Anna said with a smile. "You've been getting messages from people all over the world. Some are sharing their stories, and others are thanking you for the changes you've inspired." Rachel set her pen down and began flipping through the letters. One in particular caught her eye, a handwritten note from a young girl in a small rural town. "Dear Ms. Simmons, my name is Ellie, and I'm 12 years old. My mom told me about how you changed the Plaza Center. We live in a town where there isn't much for kids like me to do, and the buildings here are empty and sad. But when I heard your story, I told my mom that one day I want to change things here, just like you did. Thank you for showing me that it's possible." Rachel's eyes filled with tears as she read the note. She had always known that her work was about more than buildings and businesses, but seeing how her story was inspiring young minds gave her a renewed sense of purpose. She looked up at Anna, smiling. "It's moments like this that remind me why we started," Rachel said softly. "If we can inspire the next generation to believe in their own power to create change, then our work will live on long after we're gone." Rachel decided to launch a youth empowerment program through her foundation. The program provided mentorship, scholarships, and entrepreneurial training for young people in underserved communities. It aimed to equip them with the tools and confidence to become leaders in their own towns and cities. The first cohort of the program consisted of bright, ambitious young people from diverse backgrounds. Rachel personally met with each participant, listening to their dreams and helping them set actionable goals. She brought in guest speakers, business leaders, activists, and innovators to inspire and guide the group. During one session, a young boy named Marcus shared his story. "My family always told me that people like us don't get ahead," Marcus said quietly. "But after hearing about what you've done, I feel like maybe I can change that." Rachel knelt beside him, her voice gentle but firm. "You can, Marcus. Your past doesn't define you, your choices do. Keep believing in yourself, and you'll open doors you never thought possible." The youth program quickly became one of the most impactful initiatives Rachel had launched. Participants went on to start businesses, pursue higher education, and become advocates for change in their own communities. Rachel's vision was expanding beyond what even she had imagined, building not just spaces but future leaders who would carry her mission forward. Years later, Rachel stood at the groundbreaking ceremony for one of her foundation's largest projects yet, a massive urban revitalization initiative that would transform an entire district in a major city. The area, once plagued by poverty and neglect, was about to become a model for sustainable development and inclusive growth. As she looked out at the gathered crowd of community leaders, families, workers, and young people, Rachel felt a deep sense of gratitude. She thought back to the moment that had started it all, standing in front of the Plaza Center's reception desk, being dismissed because of her skin color. What had once been a moment of rejection had become the spark for a movement that was changing the world. Anna, now Rachel's chief operating officer, stood beside her, holding a commemorative plaque. "You've come a long way, Rachel," Anna said softly. Rachel smiled. "We've come a long way. None of this would have been possible without the people who believed in this vision." As Rachel stepped up to the podium, the crowd fell silent. She looked out at the faces before her, faces full of hope, determination, and possibility. "This project is not just about buildings or businesses," Rachel began. "It's about what happens when we choose to see the potential in every person, every community, and every space. It's about believing that no one should ever feel like they don't belong. Today, we're not just breaking ground on a new development, we're building a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive." The crowd erupted into applause, and Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. She had once dreamed of creating a space where people felt seen, valued, and included. Now, that dream was a reality, one that was spreading across cities, communities, and lives. Rachel stepped away from the podium and looked up at the skyline, where cranes and workers symbolized progress. She knew the work would never truly be finished, there would always be more spaces to transform, more people to uplift, and more barriers to break. But she was ready. Rachel Simmons had turned rejection into revolution, pain into purpose, and dreams into reality. Her legacy would endure, not as a monument to her success, but as a beacon of hope for future generations. And as the sun set over the city, Rachel stood tall, knowing that she had changed the world, not just for herself, but for everyone who dared to believe in the power of possibility.